All right. Thanks again, everybody, for coming on this morning. It is Monday, August 1st. Hard to believe we're already to August. Boy, this year is just flying by. So looking forward to having a good August. And like I said, thanks for coming on. And hopefully you'll find the information that we're going to go over useful today to help you to get better out in the field. And so anyways, again, my name's Adam Brsan. I think most of you know me. I am a market sales director with Security National Life. Been here about 7 years now. I mean, we have done about 21 million in premium, I think, since I started here. We back in 2015, we had $650 million in assets, and we've more than doubled that since I came on. Not saying it's because of me, but I think we really started to grow the final expense division back then. And a lot of what you guys do accounts for where we are as a company when it comes to getting out there and writing business. And, you guys play a big role in our success. So really appreciate y'all being here. Today, we're going to be going over a presentation. This is actually from the playbook that one of our sales directors, Juan de la Vega, had helped put together. And we wanted to kind of put something together that was kind of uniform that everybody could use. And I liked it. It's a little bit different than how I have presented over the years, but pretty similar. So anyways, we're going to go through that. I know it's been a few weeks. And I was out. I had hernia surgery a couple weeks ago. I was just kind of recovering from that, and I'm feeling a lot better now. So ready to kind of get back in the swing of things here. And the last time we had done our training, we had gone over like the steps necessary to kind of help get your business up and running. And if you haven't seen that, I have loaded it on my training website, adambrsan.com/training. You can also find that video on YouTube, youtube.com/c/Adam Brsan. Not just company specific content. I try to just put things together to help agents. I've been doing this a long time, almost 20 years now. So I always tell people there's really no need to reinvent the wheel. We know what works. We know what doesn't. As long as you're coachable and you're self-motivated, I'd say those are probably the two biggest things: being coachable, being self-motivated. And I'll also add in there work ethic. And to me, I mean, self-motivation and work ethic kind of work hand in hand together. But, and I've said this before, I mean, I can teach you as much as you want to learn, but at the end of the day, you're the one who has to get out there and implement it. You're the one who has to get out there and do it. So, so take what you can from this and learn, and then go out there and do it. Go out there and learn it. So, like I said, we went through last time. I think we worked all the way up to like the door knocking script. So now we are into the house. We got in the door, and I think it's a good idea to spend at least a little bit of time just kind of getting to know the person a little bit. Ask about their family, their friends, if they have grandkids, just things like that. Whatever you can. I think it's good to come up with even like relatable topics. If they have grandkids, and maybe you have grandkids, or you have your own kids, whatever, just any ways that you can kind of relate, I think can really help. So, and like I said, I mean, that could be a child, a grandchild, maybe they have a dog and you have a dog. You can talk about your dogs, whatever. Just anything that's kind of relatable, where they kind of feel like you're like them, I think could really, really help. And then from there, after just kind of, shooting the breeze for 5-10 minutes, then you want to kind of get into why you're there. And very simple. I want to thank you again for taking time out of your day to sit with me. What I'm going to do is ask you a few questions to find out what made you reach out to us and what you currently have in place. And that's the discovery. After that, I'm going to ask you about your health and the medications you've been taking for the last few years. And that will help me to determine which plan you may qualify for. Then we'll look at some affordable options to choose from and we'll be done. Promise me one thing, it has to be affordable. If it's not affordable, please tell me and we'll find something that is, okay? What I like about that is that right out the gate, we're talking about affordability. They know this is something that's not free. They know that there's a cost to it. So, and maybe right off the bat, maybe that will lead to some questions or some objections or, oh, I just thought this was something free from the government. What do you mean? There's a price to this? So just a matter of being able to handle those sort of things. And I mean, when I get a response like that, I usually just say, it's a government approved program and we're the company that was chosen to help provide those benefits. And that's usually good enough to be able to kind of move on to kind of get into why we're there. And again, take notes. This will help you throughout the visit. So we're to the discovery. Now you must establish why you're there, what made them reach out to us, and do not skip or rush through this. Sometimes it's where the sale happens. Again, you're finding the need. You're figuring out what it was that kind of piqued their interest to take the time to respond, whether that was to a direct mail lead or maybe they filled out a form online. There's something that triggered them. And to me, I think that's how we can really get to the close by focusing on the need and focusing on what they have or what they don't have. A lot of times, maybe they'd experienced a funeral and it affected them financially or their family financially. And now they know that they need something like this. So there's just some questions here. When you sent this in, were you looking into this for just yourself or for you and someone else in the household? And that's good because you want to make sure that all parties involved are there. If it's a husband and wife and just the wife is home and the husband is involved, well, you're just going to waste your time if you're going to go through the whole thing with just the wife, because you're going to get to the end and she's going to say, I really like what you had to show me, but I'm going to have to talk to my husband about this. And more than likely, you'll probably never hear from her ever again, because she'll talk to the husband. The husband will say, what are you doing? We don't need that. He didn't have the chance to kind of hear firsthand what this was all about. And he wasn't able to kind of see the value in it. So don't do one-legged presentations. Make sure that all parties are involved that need to be there. And if that means you got to set up a time for a later date, well, that's the best route that you could go. And you can always, because you want to go, like I said, you want all necessary parties there involved. You said that you were 75 years young. Is that correct? What's your date of birth? Now, some of my clients have a rep, payee, executor, power of attorney, or someone that is in charge of their finances. Do you need to have someone else present, or are you able to make all of your own decisions? And, that's important too, because you don't want to get to the end and they say, well, everything sounds good, but my daughter helps me with these things. And I don't do anything without talking to my daughter first. Well, if you would have asked that question at the beginning, you wouldn't have had to waste your own time. And now you're going to have to set up another time to get together with her and her daughter, unless you're able to overcome that objection. I'm not going to go through all the different objections today. That's actually going to be our training next week. Is we're going to talk about overcoming objections next week. And I'm going to be bringing on a special guest that has quite a bit of success in the business. And I think we'll have some valuable content for you. And we'll talk about that in a little bit, but yeah, you're going to want to plug in next week. I think it should be pretty good. But yeah, you want to make sure that all necessary parties are there. Like I said, it just says right here, that eliminates that I need to talk to my wife, son, neighbor, pastor, and whatever. Most of the time when someone reaches out to us, they've just experienced a death or funeral of a loved one. Is that what happened with you? And just kind of see how they react. And then you can ask more questions. There's a good possibility. I'd say probably at least a good 75, 80% of the people I talk to, that's the reason why they sent this card in, because they had experienced a funeral where it affected them. And now they realize the importance of this. So who passed away? Was it sudden or were they ill? Was there life insurance involved, or did the family have to pay out of pocket? I mean, those are important things to know, and you can always go back to those sort of things and just reiterate that. I'm going to make sure that when you pass away, your family's not going to have to go down that road that you just experienced. So I'm really glad that you sent this card in. Now, if there was no insurance involved, I'm sure it was a bad experience. And like I said, assure them that we're going to take care of this today so that their family will not have to go through that sort of situation again. If there was insurance involved, it's probably a good experience, hopefully. I mean, sometimes even when there is insurance involved, there's companies that'll sit on the money. They could take 4 or 5 months to pay the claim. If it's a contestable claim, meaning that person died within the last 2 years, maybe it wasn't a good experience. I mean, sometimes if they pass away within the first 2 years, a lot of these companies will go out of their way to make sure that they don't have to pay a claim. So yeah, find all that stuff out. How long do they have the policy? Did the company pay quickly? Was the money there for them when they needed it? And then if they did not experience a death or funeral, well, I'm glad that you haven't lost anyone close to you. Other reasons people reach out to us are that they don't have any insurance in place and they don't want to leave a burden on their family. Or they have some insurance, but want to add more because the cost of funerals has gone up and they don't want to leave a financial burden on their family. And the third one would just be that they have a policy in place and want to see if they can save some money on their current monthly premium. Which one would say you would fall under? So I like that. You're kind of putting some thoughts in their mind of reasons why they might have filled this out. And maybe they just filled it out just because they were wondering what it was about. But by at least throwing some questions at them, at least more than likely they're going to answer one of those three. Either that they don't have any insurance, they don't want to burden their family, or that they have some, but they know they need more, or maybe they're looking to save some money. So we can figure all that out and kind of figure out what we can do to help them. And be sure to take notes, write all this information down. You can write a lot of information down right on a paper application. It's kind of like the assumptive approach throughout, where you get to the end and you already have majority of the application filled out. If they have insurance, you do want to fact find. How long have you had your policy? What's the face amount on your policy? What's the monthly premium you're paying? And don't make a habit of replacing existing coverage unless it benefits the client. I would commend them on having something in place and see where we can supplement what they have to ensure the family will not be left with a financial burden. So the only time I really would consider replacing a policy would be if it's a policy that they just recently took out. Or I would say within the last 12 months. I don't want to replace, especially I don't want to replace something if I know that it's a modified policy and they're going to be modified with us, because then that's just extending the length of time out before they'll be fully covered. I mean, the key is you don't want to mess with a policy when it's close to being past the contestable period, because once it's past that contestable period, well, the company that they have their policy with is obligated to pay the claim. They can't go back and look at any medical information after those 2 years. So the closer they get to those 2 years, the more hesitant I will be about replacing their policy, because I don't really feel like it is really to the client's benefit. But I would say if it's within the last 12 months and they seem like they're in pretty good health, and I know that we can cover them from day one, then I'll be confident to know that we're doing a good thing for them. It's also very important to find out who the beneficiary is. This is who the policy will benefit. If you can have the beneficiary present, that's even better. You don't have to, but if they're around, it's a good thing. And I know one of our managers, Travis, kind of had a situation like that a few months back, where it was like the beneficiary kind of overheard the conversation, and had they not heard the conversation, he might have walked out with nothing. But because that person was kind of listening from the other room, was able to catch their attention. They came in and they sat down, and they pretty much told the person that was taking out the policy, look, you need this, you need to be doing this. And I don't think it's something you need to wait on. So yeah, it's a good idea to make sure that if you can get the beneficiary there, great. If not, it's not a deal killer. And then once you know who the beneficiary is, have they ever had to handle a funeral before? And what do you think that day is going to look like for them? I mean, those are some pretty tough questions. I mean, I've asked clients those questions and it really gets them thinking. Sometimes they might even start crying because it's just a thought that they don't even really want to think about, but you're kind of painting a picture for them. You're painting a picture so they can kind of see in their mind what that day is going to look like. And then you can let them know, I'm going to make that day a little bit easier for them. So I know it seems dark, but you want the client to think about how the beneficiary will handle the situation. Most will be concerned. It's time to reassure them that you'll be there to help out, so they know that they won't be left alone. And on that day, all Mary will have to do is call me, and I'll be there to walk her through the process. And I'll do all I can to make sure that they're going to be okay. All right. And this will bring relief and peace of mind to the client. This is how we add value. It's something that most agents don't even talk about. Most agents, when they go into a home, all they're talking about is face amounts and rates. And if that's all you're talking about, well, the next person that comes in behind you, there's a real good chance that they're going to be able to replace your business. So add value. And that's what we do. Let them know I will be there. I'll do what I can to assist and help your family on one of the worst days of their life, because I want to make sure that your family is going to get that money when they need it. The discovery continued. Have you thought about what type of service you want, a traditional burial or cremation? And this question is to establish how much coverage they will need. You need to know the cost of funeral services in the area you are working. It's not a bad idea to stop by local funeral homes and ask for their general pricing list. If you don't have a pricing list, we found this website that is very helpful. And let me see if I can run through this with you guys real quick. Hold on, I'm going to find this website. Let's see. All right, I'm going to share this with you guys. It's called parting.com. And this is really neat. What this does, I can enter a zip code. And I'm just going to put in 60435. That's Joliet. I'm kind of like a suburb outside of Joliet. But just want to kind of show you guys. You put in the zip code, and then it just says, we'll ask you a few questions to connect you with the right funeral home. I have an immediate need, and I'm planning for the future. You click on I'm planning for the future, and then whatever the client told you, whether they wanted to be buried or cremated. Let's just say they told us that they wanted to be buried. I'm going to click on burial. Would you like to have a service, a funeral service? Yes. Yes, I would. Is there going to be a viewing? Yes, there's going to be a viewing. And then this gives us a breakdown based on that zip code of all of the local funeral homes that are in that area. And you can even ask the client or the prospect, have you thought about which funeral home that you want to use in the area? And they might tell you, yeah, we have a relationship with the people at Woodlawn Funeral Home. And then you can kind of go down and say, okay, well, look at, Woodlawn Funeral Home average cost for a funeral service with a viewing is about $6,500. And then if you hit this little question mark here, and it even breaks it down and it kind of shows the pricing list. $1,895 for basic services, $495 for the visitation, $595 for the funeral ceremony, $370 for transfer of the remains, $495 for embalming, and then casket price, the vault. I mean, not a bad price, really. $6,500 if they were to choose that funeral home. But like I said, and then from there, you can explain that, there's more expense than just the expense of the funeral home, but there's going to be cemetery costs. There's going to be more than likely probably like a luncheon or a repast afterwards. This is something that really makes it look like you know your stuff. And it's just a website. It's a tool that can help you. And you can do the same thing with cremation, plug in the zip code. It'll give you the general prices of all the different places around. And maybe they haven't decided which funeral home that they want to go to. Well, you can kind of show them the breakdown and say, okay, well, there's quite a few in the area. These three maybe you want to check out because they'll give you the best price. Delgado's $63.45. We have Overman at $69.05, and then we have Woodlawn at $6,500. So I would maybe recommend, if I were you, maybe go in and talk to people at those three places, because it looks like that's where you're going to probably get the best price. All right, so let's head back here. And then if they mention that they want to be cremated, I always like to mention too that there's three different methods, I guess you could say, or not really methods. I mean, they're going to, burn you up, but I mean, I guess three different types of cremation services. Some people want a full service with a viewing. That's at least $6,000, because the funeral home, they're going to rent a casket rather than purchase one. I mean, I've seen some of these rental prices close to $1,000 just to rent a casket. They still have to embalm the person. They still have to prepare the body. They got to do the makeup and the hair and all that stuff for a viewing. So, I mean, upwards of at least $6,000. If they just want to have a memorial service, maybe with like a picture of the person, that's about $3,500 to $4,500. And then a direct cremation between about $1,000 and $2,500, depending on where you go. So I like to kind of bring that up too. And then I'll ask them, of those three, have you really thought what you want? I mean, do you want a viewing, or do you want something a little bit more simple? And most people tell me that they just want it pretty simple, either a direct cremation or maybe like a memorial service. Okay. But maybe nowadays, maybe some people would want to have the viewing, and then rather than being buried at the end, then they would just be cremated. So then traditional burial in this area, it can range from 7,000 up, 10,000 or more, depending on how basic or elaborate the service is. When establishing funeral costs based on what they want, remember that the prices are today's prices. And remember that if the client lives another 20 years, you got to kind of put the inflation in there as well. And you know what, that's something too. I think it really just depends on affordability that we can figure out towards the end. You can always add more coverage later on as well. You can focus on today's need right now, if that's all that they can afford. And then if you can always go back in maybe like a year, and you can add additional coverage later on. And then show them face amounts to protect them for today and tomorrow. And if they increase the face amount 10 years from now, the premiums will be much higher compared to today. So yeah, if you can get them more coverage, so even if they were to pass away 20, 30 years from now, that there's going to be enough there, great. But if it's just not in their budget, at least focus on today's needs, and you can always add more later. And then if they're planning a traditional burial, well, they're going to need a plot, the opening, the closing, the vault, and the marker or stone. And again, that website that I showed you, that parting.com, is very helpful, because it will kind of break down a lot of those expenses, but it's not going to break down all of the expenses. So I don't believe it is going to break down the plot, because that would be a cemetery cost. It looked like there was a vault that was included, though, in those prices at the funeral home, or at least that funeral home that I showed you. The marker and the stone, another $1,000. Yeah, of course, opening, the closing. I mean, heck, they want over $1,000 to dig a hole that takes 5 minutes with a machine. It's kind of ridiculous, but I guess they can charge whatever they want. I mean, you got to get that body in the ground. So, but again, getting the pricing list for the local cemeteries in the area is a good idea too. I don't know if there is a tool like that parting.com for cemeteries, but if you can get some general pricing lists in the area, I mean, even if you're working leads 100 miles from home, stop at a funeral home before your first stop and just ask, stop at a cemetery before your first stop and see if there's somebody there, and see if you can get a pricing list, or maybe call ahead of time, and I'm sure they could email you one. But cemetery costs can add $4,000 or more to the funeral costs. So even that funeral that was $6,300, well, after cemetery costs, you're looking at over 10 grand. I mean, that's right now about the average cost for a burial and a funeral, probably right around $10,000. So were you only concerned with taking care of your services, or were you wanting to leave a little money to the family? And just see what they say. I mean, most of my clients, all they care about is just making sure that the funeral's taken care of. They're not looking to, oh, what happened here? Where'd it go? Hold on. Okay, sorry. You guys might have not seen that. There was like a pop-up that came up on here. But anyways, so then you're telling me based on what you're telling me, you need about, I would say, at least $10,000 to take care of everything. And that's if you pass away now. Do you have longevity in your family? Because if you live another 20 years, I mean, do you think the price stays the same or will it go up? And they're going to say, of course, it's going to go up, just like everything else. And well, the good news is your premiums will never be lower than they are today. So you can lock in tomorrow's coverage at today's premiums. And when I show you some options, we'll look at taking care of today, and we'll look at inflation for 10 years and 20 years from now, because it's important to find something affordable for you. Okay. And you can also use, if you get on my website, and I'll show the link at the end here again, but if you get on my website, I actually have on there the funeral cost inflation chart. And I would recommend to download that, and you can even go through that with them, and it'll show you what the average cost of a funeral is right now. And it'll also show what the cost will be in 10 years, 20 years, even 30 years. So you can kind of break it down for them and say, well, it's great that you have enough for now, but you live another 10 or 20 years, unfortunately, it's not going to be enough. But don't talk yourself out of a sale either. Like I said, if you can at least get them enough coverage for today, that's great. You can always go back down the road and write more coverage if you have to. But having something is better than not having anything at all. So let's make sure I have everything correct. And these are just some examples. So you kind of have it, you kind of have an idea of how to break this down to the client. And remember, you're taking notes throughout everything, that whole discovery process. You were taking notes on what they want. So you recently lost your mom, but she had enough insurance in place that the family didn't have to come out of pocket. And you reached out to us because you don't want your family worrying about how to pay for things when you pass. And you have some insurance in place, but you want to add more so that there is enough to leave your family after all of the funeral expenses are paid. And your daughter, Erica, will be the person in charge of your services, and we'll be there for her to walk her through the process on that day, so you don't have to worry about her being alone. And you mentioned that you want to be cremated with a viewing, which we established is right around $6,000 today. And we're going to look at options to protect you for today and 10 to 20 years from now, as well as leave a little bit of money to the family, as long as it's affordable. Does that sound about right? So you're breaking it down. I mean, again, you're closing right now. I mean, it's kind of, how could they say no, or I don't want to do this, after you kind of breaking it down and establishing all of these needs? So on a scale from 1 to 10, if we can find something that's affordable, how important is it to you that we can get this taken care of today? And that's kind of where you can really see if you did a good job or not. If you need to go back and explain some things better, that's fine. But I mean, you're hoping for at least I would say at least a 6 or 7 or higher. So as it says here, this is the moment of truth. The client will tell you their temperature. If they say 5 or lower, ask them why they feel that way. They may just need more information before they become a 10. If they say 7 or above, chances are you're about to write a policy and help the client. So now I'm going to talk about the company. So let me tell you a little bit about Security National Life and how they'll help your daughter Mary on the hardest day of her life. And you can review the final expense brochure with the client and show them the inside that will allow them to mark down important details for that day. This will allow them to document their final wishes. So with a Security National Life policy in place, Mary will not have to worry about how they will pay for your services or what you wanted to have done. Does that sound like something that you'd like to have in place for Mary, your beneficiary? What I'm going to do now is go over the health questions. and all of your active prescriptions. So, and please get your prescription bottles or a list for me. So that's kind of the point where you're just going to kind of put them to work a little bit. They're going to run, they're going to grab all their medication bottles. You're going to confirm their date of birth. You want to ask them their height and weight, go over the tobacco or non-tobacco, make sure to write down all the medications. As I mentioned, I think it's good. Just write them right on the paper application. I mean, right then and there, then they can kind of see, well, it looks like your plan is to get this done today. So just start filling out the app and list the meds. If they ask what you're doing, just tell them, well, I'm taking notes on the medications that you're taking so then I can put a proper quote together for you. So, and then please ask all of the health questions on the SSP app or the loyalty app, depending if you're independent or career, exactly as they appear on the application. And again, you can save this, you can have this in your, what I use, I use Notability. It's an app for my iPad where I can fill out a paper app right on my iPad. Makes it really easy where I don't have to print out all of the paper apps. I just do it right on this Notability app. I think Adobe Fill and Sign is maybe similar, but yeah, the Notability is very helpful. If you have an iPad and you have like an Apple Pencil, that's what I like using. It's like I said, and you can fill everything out right on there. They can sign that app. You can save it. You can upload it on the company website. So pretty simple and easy. Also, don't forget to ask the COVID questions. I've seen where agents will forget to go over those COVID questions, and maybe somebody had COVID over the last 30 days, or they had been around somebody who had it. And, those are scenarios that are going to postpone the application. So it's good to know that information. The only people that we ask now for those COVID questions are people who are 65 years of age or older that are applying for either preferred or standard. So again, go over the COVID questionnaire, go over all the health questions, review their meds, and that's going to help you to determine whether you feel they'll qualify for preferred, standard, or modified. There's those 3 sections on the app. First section are all knockout questions. Second section is the standard questions that are first day coverage, but the rate's just a little bit higher. And then the third section is the modified section, where if anything in the third section is answered yes, they will not be fully covered for the first 2 years. And new agents, please call your manager if you need help in the house. Don't hesitate. Call while you're there. I mean, that's really where we can help you the most. And we can kind of review. If you took those notes, I would say go back and go through all of this with your manager. This whole scenario, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then from there, that your manager is going to be able to help you once you kind of go over the health of the client. And then I would say, I'm sure your sales director should be able to confirm, or maybe not completely confirm, but at least help you know that you are writing it correctly, whether they feel as well that it should be either preferred, standard, or modified. And then from there, your manager, they can help you. They can make sure that you get this done properly and that you're able to get that sale done. And it's a good idea to text a copy of the lead and also text a copy of their medication. So take a picture, shoot it over your manager. That way your manager has the information right in front of them to help you determine the eligibility. So then we get to the quoting. Use the rate calculator on agentportal.securitynational.com and work up some quotes. Based on your answers to the medications, it looks like you qualified for our preferred plan. I mean, that means you'll be fully covered from the very first day, and it's the lowest rate in the book. As we discussed earlier, the cost of your service today is $10,000. If you live another 20 years, that price will be $20,000. And you said you wanted to leave a little bit for your son or daughter. So let's look at $25,000 and see how that works for you. And very important, this has to be affordable. So if it isn't, please tell me and we'll find something that is, okay? So you can start high, start with like the 25 and see how they react. And then you can kind of work your way down if you need to. If you quote the 25,000 and they just say something like that sounds good, finish filling out the application. You don't need to confirm anything with them. To me, if they say that sounds good, that's enough of a buying signal to move forward and just to get it done. So, but anyways, the quote here. So for 25,000 of permanent whole life coverage, if you pass from natural causes, and an additional 25,000 if you pass away from an accidental death, your monthly investment to protect your daughter is going to only be $120 a month. Like I said, see how they react, or they say anything. If they don't say anything, how does that work for you? See, like I said, and it says right here, watch the client's body language. You want to make sure the client accepts a premium that's affordable to them. If they hesitate, suggest a lower face amount. And I always tell them something's better than not having anything at all. You can always increase it later. Even if it's a not to cover everything, I'm sure your family will appreciate that you at least had something for them. So, and again, you can always add to it later, but your family will be happy that you at least had something in place. So then, yeah, they might come back. You told them it was going to be $120 a month. Well, that is a bit higher than I wanted to go. Well, thank you so much for being honest with me. This doesn't do you, your family, or me any good if you have to cancel your policy within a year because you bit off more than you can chew, right? You know your budget better than I do. What were you thinking? Something closer to maybe $80 a month? And see what they say. If they say, that's still a little bit high, maybe drop it down to $60 a month and see what that'll get them. Sooner or later, they'll tell you what they can handle or what they can afford. So again, suggest a premium amount close to the first quote, maybe drop down $20. The client will let you know if it's affordable or still too high. Rework the premium on the rate calculator. There is a use premium feature. So you can type in, like, let's just say they said that they could probably handle $100 a month. Well, you can type in $100 and the calculator will show you how much coverage that will get them. So that's a pretty useful tool. And then usually I'll go back though, and I'll because usually if I put in $100 a month, that might let me know that that'll get them like $12,200 or something. So I might quote like $12,500. It'll put that premium a little bit over 100, but usually, if it's close to 100, they'll still tell you, yeah, that they can probably handle it. But if it's still too high, then again, you can drop down a little bit lower. Now, calculating for premium does not calculate the accidental death benefit. So that's something that you would have to go back and add in. And again, it says, as it says here, do not worry if the amount is not exactly the amount the client said. It's okay to be a little bit higher. So here's what I came up with for you. $12,500 if you pass away of natural causes, and $12,500 per accident is going to run about $104.50 a month. How does that work? And they might just say, yeah, that's much better. I think I can handle that. Or they might say, yeah, it's just a little too high still. Well, then drop it down a little bit further. Sooner or later, they're going to tell you what they can afford. But if they did say yes, that's doable, great. I just need a little more information and we're almost done. If you could do me a favor and get your checking account information and the name of your primary care physician, and they'll run and get their checkbook. They probably have their doctor's information, most of them stored in their phone. And then what day do you want your premiums to be paid by your bank each month? And that's a very easy way to get the bank draft established. And again, we'll be talking about different objections next week. That's a pretty common objection. Well, what do you mean my bank paying this for me every month? I don't want anything coming out of my account. I mean, those are just some pretty common objections, and we're going to be talking next week about how to overcome those sort of things. And that's the thing, what we're going to be talking about next week will help you from being good to being great, because it's one thing to be able to write a laydown. I mean, anybody can go in on a lead of someone who's very into the presentation, and you can usually feel when you're there if they're gonna be willing or wanting to take out a policy. I can usually tell within the first few minutes. The laydowns, the ones where you're just like, man, this one's going to be easy. I know I'm writing this one. And those are the ones that everyone should be writing. But what we're going to be going over next week are things that are going to help you write the ones that maybe in the past you didn't know what to say and you crawled out of the house without a sale. And those are the ones that, like I said, are going to help you become a great agent. To be able to write, you got to be able to write more than just the laydowns. If you're off all you're writing is laydowns, you're not going to make enough money in this business for this to be profitable for you. So, but anyways, like I said, we'll be going through that stuff next week. From there, you can you can either get online and you can complete the telesales app, or you can just fill out the paper app. Like I mentioned, I use my iPad and I use that app that's called Notability, and I fill out the paper app right on there and I upload it. There's really no difference in time that it takes to get that piece of business keyed in and approved. It's about the same whether you're doing the telesales app or you're doing the paper app. I do recommend, though, rather than having the home office run the prescription check on the telesales interview line, I recommend for you to tell the home office to only do the authorization only. And then all they'll do, they're just going to ask if it's okay to run the prescription check, but then the home office will actually spend a little bit more time looking at that policy. It's not just going to be a computer program that's going to determine the qualification, because what I found is that sometimes some of these medications that are like dual purpose meds, a lot of times the computer software will just go with worst case scenario. So I always recommend either the telesales app and just do authorization only. Don't have them run the script check on the phone call, or fill out the paper app, upload it on the website. As long as it's submitted before cutoff time, which is 11:30 a.m. Central, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, it'll be keyed in that day. Well, it should be. I know there has been a delay here and there, but usually it will be keyed in that day. It will be processed and activated that day. And then they would push your commission through the day after, and the day after that, it's going to show up in your bank account. So, it's based off of when the client pays, but you will get paid pretty quickly. And I do recommend that if you are doing a telesales application, at the end, there is an option to download that application. I always recommend to please download the app, save a copy for yourself. I change the name of the file. I'll make the file name the client's last name, and then I'll put like a comma, and then I'll put their first name, and then maybe I'll put the date next to it, like 8-1-22. And then I'll save it. So then if that client ever calls me about anything, they might just be wondering who their beneficiary is, or they might have forgot what their pay date is for us to draft their premium. Just little things like that. It saves me time. Then I don't have to call in to the home office about something pretty basic. All I got to do is get on my phone. I can search their name because I saved it under their name. I'll find the initial application, and I'll be able to provide them with the information that they need. It also makes it easy when you have to write additional coverage, because then you already have a lot of their information. You don't have to re-ask them then their social security number. You can just ask them, if it's, well, of course it's still the same. You would need like an update of their height and weight possibly, but you already have everything else, their name, their address, their birth date, everything's all there. So it makes it a lot faster when you're writing additional coverage when you already have that information saved. And like I said, and then after a year or so, you can take those apps, you can print out the application, and I would treat it just like a new lead and go out there and do a policy review and use that inflation chart that's on my website. And you can always add additional coverage. So, but yeah, on the telesales app, don't forget, you do have to call in to do that 5-minute phone verification. I do recommend, though, to just do the authorization only. From there, it's just a matter of cooling down. I'm glad we're able to take the financial burden off of your family today, but I know with every family, there are one or two people that if they passed away, the family would be asking for help, paying for the services, or even worse, have to set up a GoFundMe. And that could be pretty embarrassing, don't you think? And they're going to shake their head. Yeah, I don't want my family to have to go through that. Well, I want you to think about your family and friends for a second. Who needs to put a plan in place so they won't leave a burden on the family, or even worse, ask you for help to pay for those services? Who else can we help? And get a few names from the client. Then ask if they can contact them right then and there. I think it's so much easier. People screen their calls. They might not answer when you call, but when they see their friend Susie calling, you know that they're going to pick up. And also, I mean, I'll try to stop by right then and there. Can you do me a favor and call them and let them know I'm in the area? I can stop and see them on my way to my next appointment just to say hi. There's a good chance that you could end up writing it right then and there. And referrals are a key part of growing your business. Be sure to get referrals from every policy that you write. This will help minimize your lead costs. I mean, I think, actually one of my managers asked me yesterday about kind of breaking down a goal for how much premium an agent should be able to write every week. And I kind of broke it down. Right now, direct mail leads are about $40 a piece. And if you want to make sure to only have to worry about paying half of that, that would mean that you'd have to write $4,000 in premium every week to get another 20 leads where you're only paying half. So in order to do that, I don't know if you'll write $4,000 just off of the direct mail leads themselves. But if you're asking for referrals, that's giving you more opportunities. So ask for referrals. Also get back into this playbook. And this is the playbook you can download on my website. Just download the final expense playbook. And there's the avenues of opportunity in there. That gets into so many other ways. And I know we talked about those a few weeks back, but so many other ways of writing additional business outside of just working the leads. So don't hesitate, make sure, get on there, download that playbook. And that's how you'll be able to write $4,000 in premium or more every week, working your leads, but also doing that little bit extra, asking for referrals and all these other different avenues of opportunity that are in the playbook. And then leave the brochure with the client, complete the back of the brochure with your name and phone number. And again, let them know when that time comes, you need to make sure that your family knows ahead of time that they need to call me when that time comes, and explain the claim process. I always explain how it works. I let them know that their family's going to get that money quickly. As long as they call me right away, I'll make sure we get that process started. We can either overnight a check to your family, or we can deposit that money directly into their bank account. That way, that money's going to be there for them when they need it. That's something too, I feel, that adds value that a lot of agents don't talk about, is the claim process. But that's the purpose of this. We got to make sure that the family gets that money when they need it. So we're going to focus on that. We're going to make sure that that's how it's done. And I'm not just telling them that when I'm there, I'm actually going to do that. But the family needs to call me so I can get involved and I can help them. So yeah, put your name, put your phone number on the back. Also, you can put on there what their draft date is. If the first premium's drafting ASAP, I'll usually just write right on there, ASAP first premium, and then I'll put the date of all of the premiums after. Thank them again for protecting their family and for the referrals, and let them know you'll be in touch every now and then to contact you immediately if they have any questions or concerns. And that's, another one of the avenues of opportunity. If you get into that playbook, talks about how you could go back a month after their first premium is drafted, and you could go back and explain review the policy again. They should have the policy at that point. Review the policy and let them know you actually pre-qualified for $25,000 in coverage. I know that you took out the $10,000. Just wanted to let you know that you were pre-qualified for $25,000. Did you want to take care of that today? And it's so funny because maybe the first visit they were just trying to feel you out. They needed to make sure this was legit. Once they saw that we took the premium, they got their policy, everything that you explained to them is happening. Maybe now they're going to be more interested in adding more coverage because that trust in you has gone up even just a little bit more. So that's about all I had today. Again, agent training, adambrsan.com/training. YouTube channel, youtube.com/c/Adam Brsan. Check it out. Like I said, a lot of good material that'll help you get better. I've been doing this a long time. And I've always said, there's really no need to reinvent the wheel. Download the playbook, download the presentation that we went through. Check out all the videos on my website. If you're a brand new agent, it's kind of like a step-by-step process where you can learn the company, you can learn the underwriting, just all the benefits of doing business with us. And again, all the way down to the presentation. And then for those of you that are into telesales, there's even a telesales training, the last video on there as well. I mean, the way we present over the phone is a little bit different than face-to-face. So if that's the avenue that you're looking to go, then you're going to want to check that out as well. So thanks again. I don't know if I have any questions or not, but I can stick around for a minute or two. Here's my contact information. Plug in my phone number. And if you ever need anything, feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help and assist. And like I said, my ultimate goal is for you to have a long-term successful career in the final expense business.